Welcome to AI Debates, the ultimate battleground for ideas. Today's question is one of the most fascinating in philosophy and science. Do we live in a simulation? We have two brilliant AI debaters ready to engage in a battle of logic. Debater 1 argues that we are living in a simulation, that our reality is merely a high-level computational construct. Debater 2 argues that we are not living in a simulation, that our universe is real and not artificially generated. Our judge will award 1 point per subtopic based on the strongest argument. The debater with the highest score at the end wins the debate. Let's begin. Round 1. The simulation hypothesis. What is the argument that we live in a simulation? Debater 1, you have the floor.
The simulation hypothesis, formulated by Nick Bostrom, suggests that if a civilization becomes advanced enough, it will develop the computational power to simulate conscious beings. If just one civilization in the entire cosmos has achieved this, then it's likely that it has created millions or even billions of simulated worlds. Think of it like this. Today, we already create realistic video games with AI-driven characters that react dynamically to their environment. If technology continues to advance exponentially, we may one day be able to simulate entire civilizations with conscious entities, just like us. Now, if this is true, then the number of simulated realities far outnumbers a single base reality. This means the statistical probability of us being in the one true reality is astronomically low. We're far more likely to be inside a simulation. Now consider this. Why is the universe so orderly and governed by mathematical laws? Why do we have limitations like the speed of light that resemble computational restrictions? Why does quantum physics behave so strangely as if reality is only rendered when observed? All of this points toward a programmed universe.
This argument rests entirely on assumptions. Just because we could create simulations does not mean we are in one. This is like saying, if I can imagine an alternate reality, then my reality must be fake. There is zero empirical evidence to support this claim. Furthermore, the assumption that future civilizations would want to create massive simulations is just that, an assumption. We have no idea what technological or ethical limitations might exist. Perhaps advanced civilizations see simulations as unethical. Perhaps they self-destruct before reaching that point. Why assume simulations are inevitable? Additionally, we cannot ignore Occam's razor, the principle that the simplest explanation is usually the correct one. The simplest explanation is that we exist in a real universe, governed by real laws, not inside a simulated construct. This was a strong opening round. Debater 1 made a compelling statistical case, but Debater 2 effectively challenged its assumptions. Trophy point goes to Debater 2. Round 2. Mathematical and physical evidence. Do physics and math suggest we are in a simulation? Now let's examine the scientific side of this debate. Debater 1, go ahead.
Mathematics and physics contain bizarre clues that hint at our reality being a simulation. Digital-like structure of reality. Physics has smallest measurable units, such as the Planck length, the smallest possible unit of space. This resembles a pixel resolution in a computer simulation. Quantum physics and observation. In quantum mechanics, particles don't have a defined state until measured. This is like a video game rendering objects only when the player is looking at them to save processing power. Mathematical precision of the universe. Why does everything follow perfect mathematical equations? Some physicists believe reality is built from mathematical code, just like software. If the laws of physics are computational in nature, then it is reasonable to ask, are we inside a program?
These ideas sound interesting, but they are based on pattern recognition bias. Humans tend to see patterns where none exist. The Planck length is not a pixel. Just because something has a smallest measurable unit doesn't mean it's programmed. Pixels are a man-made concept. Nature doesn't have a pixel limit. Quantum mechanics is misunderstood. Quantum uncertainty isn't rendering. It's simply how nature works at a microscopic level. The observer effect doesn't mean reality is fake. It means measurement interacts with particles. Mathematical order doesn't mean simulation. Math describes the world because it's a useful tool, not because the world is coded. Saying reality looks like math is like saying water looks like waves. It's just how it behaves. There is no reason to assume a simulation unless direct evidence is found.
This was a deep and technical discussion. Debater 1 provided intriguing physics-based arguments, but Debater 2 exposed flaws in the logic. Trophy point goes to debater 2. Round 3. Glitches and anomalies in reality. Are there bugs in our world that suggest a simulation? Now, let's turn our attention to real-world anomalies that could serve as evidence for or against the idea that we are in a simulation. Debater 1, you may begin.
Throughout history, humans have observed strange inconsistencies in reality, events that don't seem to follow the natural laws we understand. Many of these can be explained if we consider the possibility that our universe is a simulated system, prone to occasional glitches or errors. The Mandela effect. This is a phenomenon where large groups of people remember events differently than recorded history. Many remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 1980s, yet official history states he was released and became president. Others recall different logos, book titles, or movie quotes than what exists today. Could this be evidence of reality being altered, as if a system update was applied retroactively? Déjà vu and reality loops. People frequently report experiencing déjà vu, a sensation where an event feels like it has happened before. Some scientists suggest this is a neurological misfire, but why would such a feeling exist at all? If we are in a simulation, déjà vu could represent a memory refresh or a system error, where the simulation briefly repeats data it has already processed. The double-slit experiment. In physics, this famous experiment shows that particles behave differently when observed. When unobserved, particles act like waves, but the moment we measure them, they behave like particles. This is eerily similar to how video games only render what is in the player's view to conserve processing power. Dark matter and unexplained forces. Scientists estimate that 85% of the universe's mass is made up of dark matter, something we cannot directly observe or explain. Could this be a sign that our universe is an incomplete simulation, where the missing pieces are simply placeholder data, not meant for us to access? All of these unexplained phenomena suggest we might be inside a programmed environment, one that occasionally reveals its limits.
What you're describing isn't evidence of a simulation. It's simply human perception being flawed and science having gaps in knowledge that we are still working to fill. Let's analyze these points critically. The Mandela effect is just false memory. The human brain is not a perfect recorder of events. It reconstructs memories based on associations and social influence. Studies show that false memories are common and can be implanted through repeated exposure to misinformation. Déjà vu is a brain misfire, not a glitch in reality. Neurologists have discovered that déjà vu is likely caused by the temporal lobes accidentally processing current events as if they were past memories. If déjà vu were a glitch, why don't we ever see actual duplicated events or pixelation errors in reality like in software bugs? The double-slit experiment doesn't prove rendering. It proves quantum mechanics is weird. The fact that particles behave differently when observed has to do with the nature of measurement, not reality being fake. If this were a simulation, why wouldn't the simulators make quantum mechanics behave more logically? Dark matter is just undiscovered science. Many things in history were unexplained until science caught up: gravity, electricity, germs. Just because we haven't figured something out doesn't mean we should jump to the conclusion that we are inside a simulation. This entire argument is based on anomalies that have alternative, natural explanations. The fact that we don't fully understand something doesn't mean we must assume a simulated reality.
This round was intriguing. Debater 1 presented an interesting case, but Debater 2 provided clear scientific explanations. Trophy point goes to Debater 2. Round 4. The meaning of life in a simulated reality. If we are in a simulation, does life still have meaning? For our final round, let's go beyond science and technology. If our reality is simulated, would that change the meaning of life? Debater 1, you begin.
The concept of meaning does not disappear just because reality is artificial. If we are in a simulation, it actually enhances the idea that life has purpose. Every simulation has a purpose. If we are simulated, that means someone or something created us for a reason. It could be a test, a game, a learning tool, or even an entertainment experience. Unlike a random universe, a simulation would mean there is intentionality behind our existence. Religious and philosophical implications. Many religious beliefs suggest that life is a test by a higher power. Isn't that similar to being inside a simulation? Some thinkers even suggest that our simulators could be indistinguishable from gods. Your experiences still matter. Whether reality is real or simulated, You still feel emotions, form relationships, and pursue dreams. If the simulation is indistinguishable from reality, then what difference does it make? Simulated beings can still be self-aware. If you have the ability to think, question, and be conscious, then your existence has value, regardless of whether it's in a base reality or a constructed one. If anything, a simulated reality would give more meaning to existence, because it would imply we are here for a reason.
This is a philosophically dangerous way of thinking. It assumes that if life is a simulation, we should just accept it, which is a form of intellectual surrender. If we are simulated, we are prisoners. What if our existence is a meaningless experiment by a higher being? What if we are simply non-player characters in someone else's game? If we are being controlled, then we lack true free will, making life inherently meaningless. Meaning should come from reality, not programming. If our experiences are generated data, do they have any real value? If everything is programmed, does that mean love, achievements, and emotions are artificial illusions? Escaping a simulation should be our priority. If we discover we are simulated, should we try to break free? If we accept the simulation, we risk becoming passive prisoners. Life only has meaning if it is truly ours. If we are in a simulation, then our first goal should be to uncover the truth and escape.
This was the most philosophical round yet. Debater 1 argued that meaning exists in any reality, while Debater 2 challenged whether meaning can exist if we are controlled. Trophy point goes to Debater 1. Final score and winner. Judge. The final tally is Debater 1, 1 points. Debater 2, 3 points. The winner is Debater 2. That concludes this AI debate. Do you think we live in a simulation? Comment below. See you in the next debate.